Welcome, everyone, to Ridley's Rogues. Today we're going to be talking to Juliana Donald. And if you're not familiar with her, if you were around in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I'm sure you saw her somewhere on the screen. She's done television shows like Murder, She Wrote. She's done Dragnet with Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd. But she's also done my favorite Muppet movie, Muppets Take Manhattan. She was Jenny in this movie. So we're going to have a little conversation with her, and I hope you enjoy it. So please sit back, relax, hit the subscribe button, and let's get started. Welcome back once again, everyone. I just wanted to really quick, before we get started in the interview, let everyone know that July 13th is coming up, and that is the 40th anniversary of the Muppets Take Manhattan.
Wow.
July 13th, 1984 is when it first aired. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Juliana Donald.
But we'll start right at the beginning and we'll fly through these because time is of the essence. So basically, the first question is what started your career as far as like, what was it that you said, yes, I want to do this? As far as, like I said, there was a Kellogg's commercial. And so can you lead us to that
Okay,
part?
sure. I started as a ballerina, was in New York at New York City Ballet, training at School of American Ballet. And I had a friend say, oh, go on this audition. They're looking for ballet dancers for Kellogg's commercial. And I got it. And I thought, oh, maybe I should start doing commercials. This is fun. Started taking acting classes, started doing plays on the side, started, that whole trip and really enjoying it. And then and in those days, there was only three networks: ABC, NBC, and CBS, which I told you yesterday. And so you could make a pretty good living doing a commercial at that time, not unlike today. So and so I just started doing that. I started taking my money that I was making from acting and studying with all sorts of people and like famous acting teachers. And I auditioned for the Muppets Take Manhattan. That was my first like big job. I'd done theater, stage, off Broadway, Broadway, and but they were doing this new movie, and they were looking for somebody to play Jenny. And apparently they'd been all over the map, and they'd seen all these stars at the time, and young stars. And I went into the audition, and the casting director, Howard Fewer, just said, I have no idea what they're looking for, but they've been like all over the place, so just go in. And the next thing I know, they were asking me to read with they said, do you mind waiting in here? And then they said, we need you to, I had to go to the Muppet home on the east side. Next thing I know, Kermit the Frog, Jim Henson, comes in, and they asked me to read with him, which the first time looking in Kermit's eyes, which are not like real eyes, was a little bit challenging. You had to use your imagination. And I had to do a play that night. So I had to leave, and I literally went running. And I don't know if this is what got me the job, but I went running out of that audition to get to the theater in time. You have to be there by 7:30. And I think they were trying to run after me and have me read something else, but they couldn't find me because the minute you escape in the New York streets, good luck. And so that was how I started.
Awesome. Awesome. Does anybody in your family act? Did you have an uncle or an aunt or cousins? Anybody?
No, nobody. I come from a family of academics, and my mother was she was a trained opera singer, but she never pursued it because her generation, you got married and had kids, and you didn't really go do things like that. So, but that was about the most, performer wise. I'm sure there was somebody in way back when in my family, but not that I know. So
And so I also as well, being as you did the Muppets, you've done a lot of the 70s and 80s television shows. Do you still get recognized a lot, or is it few and
Um, I get recognized more by people seeing my name, and like I mentioned, I give them a credit card and they see my name and they'll do a double or a triple take and then they'll ask me. I get recognized that way more. I have been recognized by parents sometimes with little kids because they watch the movie because now you can see it. It's on quite a bit on uh, regular TV. They keep releasing it,
yeah,
so.
awesome. The Now the whole jewelry thing we talked yesterday about that. Like we were talking about, I picture you as almost like this Indiana Jones style that goes off into the great, beyond, and digs up these certain rocks and gems and all that sort of thing. But I know you went to India. You
I
were
went to
telling.
India and I went to India to Jaipur, which is the cutting center in the world. So I guess that's kind of like Indiana Jones. I went by myself first time, and I did not know what anything was. And I went on a Sunday. I went and did a tour of the city, and it was like done at like 5 or 6. And I was like, oh, I'll just walk back to the hotel. And one of the guys that was on the tour with me said, "Excuse me, you can't walk by yourself. I'm going to walk. Where are you going?" And I said, "I have to go to the hotel. You can't walk by yourself." And he walked me back. Of course, now if you go to India, everything Uber. You can do Uber in 2 seconds. But back then, when I first went, there was no, Uber hadn't gotten there yet. But yeah, so I did that. I also went to Myanmar, Burma, and which is supposed to have the greatest stones, but there's so much violence there, and the government has such tight controls on stones that I actually went there on a way back from India because I wanted to see the stones, but you don't see any of the stones because the government has them all. So you can't see any in the marketplace. So that was kind of a little bit of an Indiana Jones, but I was coming on my way back from India and everybody scared me so much about going there that if I had like a beaded necklace, they were saying count the beads and put it on a piece of paper because they won't let you leave the country if you have the necklace and you haven't written it down. So it was kind of, I brought a stack and I handed it to them and they didn't even read English. They didn't know what to do. They were just like, here, go.
The way that you talk about this, was there any fear at all going to a whole nother place out by yourself? Especially, was there any fear? Did your folks were like, hey, Juliet, you might want to think about this?
I think like some of my friends were really afraid, but the thing about it is after I went there once, I mean, when I got there, I thought this is nuts. I don't know, I don't know where to stay. I don't know where to go. And you can get really ripped off if you are white in India. Let me just tell you, it's like you're a big flag for rip me off. I mean, they rip my friends now. I have a lot of Indian friends. They tell me they get ripped off too. So, I was a little bit afraid, but I don't know. I tried to make sure I was in a hotel so I would have my dinner in the hotel. I would make sure I was home. I would ask the hotel like, and then as I started going there, I started meeting a lot of people, and then I started feeling completely comfortable. And then now I have friends there, so I can go there and they're actually very social. And once you're there, people invite you over for dinner all the time. And you go into the tiniest little shops, and the first thing they say is masala chai, and it's kind of a ritual that you have to say yes. And they give you this chai tea, and it's kind of a way of like we break bread, they drink tea. So it's kind of beautiful that way. But yeah, it was crazy that I went by myself.
And how long ago was that? How far back?
About 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. So yeah, if there wasn't a Uber back then, that hadn't been around that long at all.
Yeah.
So that would definitely still be very, very scary. Absolutely.
Yeah, now it's great because there's Uber and and the app, and everybody knows everywhere you are because you have the phone, so it's much, much, much safer.
Yeah,
So
it's true. We talked a little too about, well, you mentioned a while ago coming from more of an academic family, and we learned yesterday that we lost Mingus. Was it 6 months ago?
yeah, yeah,
And the original name you had for him was Django Reinhardt.
right.
And yeah, so I like I was telling you, I'm a huge connoisseur of the jazz music with him and uh, Stefan Grappelli, and one of my favorite songs by them too is called Rose Room. And but you play piano now.
Yeah.
Does that growing up? Did your folks was that something that
Yeah,
you
I
said?
started playing piano when I was 5 or 4, and I just loved it. And I probably would be a musician if I didn't have, when I was about 10 or 11, I had to choose ballet or piano. And I chose ballet because if you chose piano, you have to practice for hours a day. Ballet, you have to practice for hours a day. So I was just, that was a hard choice for me. But yeah, if I wasn't so obsessed with ballet growing up, I probably would have been a musician.
And so I asked you too, if we got in your car and we were going to wherever, what would be in the playlist? What would be in the CD player, so to speak? What
Okay,
do you right now?
music from all over the world. I love world music. I love really eclectic things that we don't know. We talked about Israel Kamakawa. I hope I pronounce his name. I love his music, Hawaiian singer. And I'm working my way through the 100 best, whatever Apple said was the 100 best albums. So, I love Michael Jackson. I love all my, I and even Taylor Swift. So I'm all over the place with my taste, and
My
classical too.
my family is a huge Taylor Swift fan, as far as other other music as well. So I definitely get you on that for sure. The Taylor Swift. So, are you interested in doing some of the conventions in the area? I know.
I would
Yes,
love to. I would love to.
awesome. I know. Yesterday we talked about you had done one. I think in California somewhere,
Right.
Los Angeles, maybe. I'm not sure, but uh, it was it good? Was it good reviews? Did you feel like, yeah,
It
this
was
was
yeah, it was fun. It's nice, to see people that a lot of people, there's a lot of people that go to these all the time. So it was kind of, it was really interesting for me. I've never had, and they collect photographs and they collect autographs and it's just, it was a whole new world. I didn't have any experience with it before that. So, but I enjoyed it.
I hope you don't get shocked by the fact that people are still interested in what you do and or what you're doing and things like that, because you are a part of what is it, the culture, the 80s and 90s, that whole thing. You're a part of that. You're as much a part of that as a lot of the other things out there, because
Right.
time when it was a much simpler time. It was a more easier time, but it was a time that we can go back to. What I was talking about yesterday with the whole movie of Muppets Take Manhattan. It's such a wholesome movie, and you can turn it on family and not worry about seeing something they don't need to see, or see it, or hearing something they don't need to hear.
Right.
Um,
And I spoke to a friend of mine after we talked yesterday, and he said, which I didn't even think of, he said, what's so great about that movie is there's also, not only it's wholesome, but he said there's also jokes that you have to be an adult to get. So it's kind of something that's enjoyable for everybody.
Absolutely. There's a comedian out right now, and he is blowing up. His name's Nate Bargatze,
Oh,
and he is so clean, but he is so funny. You should look him up. He's got a couple of things on Netflix, but he is absolutely hilarious. But my kids could watch it if they wanted to.
right.
He's that wholesome. It's that good. Um, is there anything that you want to do that you haven't done in your career as of now, as of right now. You look back and you say, I've got Murder She Wrote, I've got Dragnet on the list, I've met these and all these. You get the Muppets Take Manhattan, you could take that movie with so many actors that you've met.
I know.
You were on set the whole time.
I've worked with a lot of famous actors, which has been great. It's fun too, because a lot of times the more famous they are, kind of the nicer they are, which you don't think.
He was just one of the most nicest persons. Gregory Hines.
Oh yeah, so amazing.
He looked like he was just one of the nicest persons that you would want to meet. And
yeah, I mean, he comes from a long line of like Broadway performers, and he's like a real artist. And a lot of times when you see, I mean, a lot of musicians are like this too. They're just really humble because it's about the music. Gregory Hines is about the dance. It's about, it's not about their ego. So that's kind of great.
One of the great lines from that movie, from Muppets Take Manhattan, is one that he says, and he looks at he's caressing Piggy, and he looks at Kermit and he said, "You gave Jenny the Huggies?" Oh, that's just one of the greatest lines ever from a movie like that. Are you still going around breaking up homes, giving people?
There's not that many frogs around, but I'm sure there might be a few around the corner. But yeah.
Well, July 13th, 1984, we're coming up on it, the 40th anniversary of Takes Manhattan. Oh my goodness. One of your greatest memories of that. And I'll let you.
What are my greatest memories of that? Wow. There's so many. There's so many. I mean, the first thing that came to mind was, walking on the set, and the set is like you're walking into the Pete's Cafe, but it's 4 feet above ground. And if you make a wrong, because they have to remove holes, because all the puppeteers have to be standing, and they have, in those days, they had to have these big things around their head, and they had a monitor. And I mean, that was probably one of them. There was scenes that I have that I really love doing. I really loved the first scene that I come in with Pete in the kitchen, and Rizzo, the rat. I mean, just watching the rats in the kitchen, and it was so brilliant how they did all the special effects. And probably if it was today, they'd probably do everything on a blue screen, and they'd probably put everything in. But back then it was like old school, and they had everything figured out with, mechanical things, and everything had to be perfect, and the voice. And it just was really, I have to say, puppeteers are like some of the most humble people you would ever meet in your life. And there was just no ego with any of them. And they were just like really, really wonderful. So I can't really think of, other than I told you yesterday, my favorite scene was in the park we talked about, because of Jim Henson, sitting there getting ready to shoot. And there was a huge group of little kids, maybe, I don't know, 20 little kids, that started surrounding him with their mouths open, staring at Kermit, not looking at that there was an arm connected to it, just like they were just in like, they couldn't believe it. And then he sat there and spent time talking to them, and the shooting can wait and everything can wait, because these kids are more important. So that was just beautiful.
My daughter, I was talking to you yesterday, she has recently gotten into the arts. It's been probably about a year now. She's 9 years old, and it's been roughly a year now that she's really getting into drawing. She loves drawing. She loves singing. She loves doing a lot. Just, she can make something out of the dirt outside, just like,
wow.
and just call it art. She's got some songs that she's written at 9 years old. I don't know what I was doing at 9 years old.
Oh yeah, you told me she wrote one on New York, and she hasn't even been to New York. Yeah.
Yes,
That's amazing.
hadn't even been to it. And she described it so great. I don't know where that comes from, but I wanted to ask you, as far as somebody that's done the things you've done, what's some good advice for people that are trying to especially in today's society, what's good advice to help?
I would say if it was me and I was going to give advice to somebody, I would say be true to yourself. Like, don't sit there and be influenced like, oh, well, so and so, well, that person's successful in it, because then you start diluting who you are. And that's what really is what, ultimately people, because when you think about it, there's no new ideas. There's just new ways of doing it. And that all comes down to the person's individuality. And that all comes down to how the person sees what they're doing. And no one can be the same as them. So just stay true to themselves and true to how they see it. And, it's wonderful to hear about your daughter, but the even more wonderful thing is that you're celebrating that, her talents like that, because that's just beautiful to hear.
I am blown away by it, because she was actually, and this is something that really happened. She was medically diagnosed with, it's called AMPS. That's the whatever it's called for.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's basically she was paralyzed, the legs down. She was so scared of performing, of singing or whatever. It was a medical condition. We had to, in church or at school, we had to use a wheelchair for her. And thank God, we, obviously we prayed and took her to a specialist, but the specialist said she's got to stop with any kind of, television or apparatuses, any kind of phones or anything like that. Let her get outside, let her run, let her, do things as a kid. And she came up out of that wheelchair that day. And I don't know if it just clicked her in her head, if it was, or how that works, but it was absolutely amazing. And she's starting to come out with these, these songs, these little art projects she's done. She's done some at the Sims library where we live, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So that advice I'll definitely give her.
Yeah, there's a football player who they won the Super Bowl, the quarterback, famous, and he's always praised. And he says that he never really gets nervous because he's taking the gift that God gave him, and he wants to, shine with that. And I don't know why I can't remember his name now because he's so famous. Not Travis Kelce, who I can't remember the name, but the quarterback for Kansas. And he, and I just thought that was really beautiful, because that's not worrying about your own head, not worrying about copying people. That's just saying, I got this gift from God and I need to give it to the world. So I thought that was
absolutely. Well, last thing, I know you're actually working, and I think you talked to him today, I believe, but you're working on your website
right.
to get the jewelry and everything, and so we'll definitely, when that comes out, we'll put that out there. We're so grateful. Thank you once again for
sure.
I really appreciate it. It's just meant the world to us, and we watch you all the time, and we're going to continue to do that. So we look forward to the future things that you do.
Okay. Nice to see you again, Bo. Take care.
All right.
Thank you so much once again for watching the video. Please, if you have a comic convention in your area, tell them about Juliana Donald. We want to get her in all these comic conventions that we can. I live in the South, so I'm going to let every one of them know we want her to come to these comic conventions. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace.